How yeah, and welcome to episode 13, unlucky for some, of the Temple Bard podcast with me, Jim Wynn, and Philip Noon. The dark web, Philip.
The dark web or the deep web, Jim?
Right.
You see, this is the thing. So a lot of people say the deep web or the dark web. So a lot of people will know what we're talking about. It's that part of the internet that you need a special browser to get on. It's called an Onion browser or a Tor browser.
DuckDuckGo.
No, we're not allowed to tell people how to get on it. I don't think we're allowed to name the browser.
Well, I think that browser's been discontinued.
Okay.
I think I heard something like that.
That's... Anyway, on the dark web, you can get everything from a hitman to buy a human.
We've been trying to get fucking the hitman on this podcast for a long time.
We have, actually. Brett, if you're listening.
Brett, if you're listening, and if you're on the dark web, we'll pay Bitcoin. Well, shitcoin I have.
Silk Road was the original, dark web, deep web. Right, we're going to call it dark web for the dark web.
Right.
So we have eBay and Amazon, and that's where, people do their shopping and do their internet browsing. Mm. But the original one on the dark web was called Silk Road. And that was where Bitcoin kind of originated, because people would buy, the marketplace, Silk Road, was an illegal marketplace. Mm. So you could buy drugs, you could buy guns, you could buy hand grenades, you could buy mad stuff, allegedly. but you could buy mad stuff back then. Well, you still can, obviously. But so I think the guy who came up with Silk Road, they found him in some coffee shop in somewhere in America, and he was arrested in some coffee shop. He was running the whole thing online.
There's a documentary about it, I've seen it.
He had 93, was it 93? No, it wasn't 93 billion.
Yeah, a crazy amount of money.
In Bitcoin, in a Bitcoin wallet or something.
Yeah, it was like an Interpol FBI sting thing that got him in the end. But I will say now, that wasn't the start of it, because I remember now.
Right.
Back in, it might have even been in the 90s. It was definitely later. I think it was in the 90s, to be honest. The start of the internet. You could buy weed online. I know people who used to buy weed. They used to have to buy gold and then trade the gold online, and you get weed sent from Canada.
No way.
Yeah. In Canada. So it was before Bitcoin or any crypto. But
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I remember. That was...
They just sent it in the post.
They sent it in the post. I never got it myself, obviously. But I knew people that got it a few times. I think then after a while they shut it down somehow.
That's
but I think
mad.
Silk Road was the Amazon of it. You understand? You know what I mean?
Well,
you could do online shopping before Amazon, but Amazon's like a one-stop shop.
So when Silk Road came out, I remember, because someone who's very close to me, actually, all our friends know this, because we've never let them live it down, because it's quite funny.
Right.
And it's kind of grown into the broader community, because everybody heard about this and was like, oh my God, you're an actual idiot. So he bought 2 Bitcoins. At the time, the price of the Bitcoins were like $200 and something.
Right.
And he went on Silk Road with the Bitcoins, and he bought 2 grams of MDMA at the time. Those Bitcoins today are at their peak, were worth like 140,000.
Oh, Mandy, well, you came and you left me brokey. Oh, dear.
Oh, man.
There's so many stories like that, though, There's a fella online, actually. One of the YouTube things I've been watching is a fella who cracks into crypto wallets, people that forgot their password. Because,
right,
when you get these wallets, for people that don't know, they give you a password, and you cannot forget that password. You have to have that. You won't get it. You can't get you can't reset it like you can with a normal password. So you have to remember it. And the people bought these things like crypto years ago.
But there's lads with hard drives, and they have millions on them.
Yeah. And so there's this lad goes around and he breaks into people's crypto wallets for them. He's got a few videos online. I think he's only started doing it on YouTube anyway. He's some kind of hacker dude.
Well, he must be a very loyal person, because imagine he took their hard drive and he's like, listen, I'll have this back to you tomorrow. Well, cracks into it, and then he goes, do you know what, mate? Couldn't do it.
The video
sorry.
I watched of it, he went, your man thought he had 5 million in Bitcoin in it, and it turned out that he only had $3,000 or something like that.
Oh, right.
So, now I don't know. I'm pretty sure your man wasn't going to mess him over and put it on YouTube. But I think, because people buy these things years ago, they just throw money at it and they forget all about it. They don't really know what they have. And you hear all these stories of people who are locked out of their wallets that have 100 Bitcoin in them, which would be now millions.
Millions.
And then you hear about people who like gave 2 or 3 Bitcoin for a pizza back in.
Somebody gave 100 Bitcoin for a pizza. No, wasn't it someone mad? Somebody gave like so many Bitcoin for a pizza. It was like 50 or something at the time or something. And I think the pizza now is worth like 3 or 4 million or whatever the equivalent is now.
It's a fucking hell of a
And then there's
pizza.
one lad who threw his hard drive out, and he went to like a dump, and was searching for nearly a year looking for this hard drive with millions of Bitcoin on it.
It's just gone.
Oh, you'd be raging.
It's like throwing gold in the rubbish dump. I suppose, yeah, it is. It's an example of things are only worth what people agree they're worth, you know, because it's just a made up thing. Like money's only a made up thing as well. Like any currency is only a made up thing.
Well, money's backed by gold, I suppose.
It's not anymore.
Is it not?
No. They stopped that in the 70s. Ronald Reagan and all got rid of all that jazz. It used to be backed by gold. Now it's just made up. That's why like they did like the what's the name of it? There's something that they do when they just print a load of money and give it away, and it causes a lot of the
Remember
inflation.
they did that in Zimbabwe.
They do it everywhere. They do.
Everything's like 500
They did it in Germany.
million.
They did it in Germany after the First World War. People were going around with like wheelbarrows full of Deutschmarks, and you couldn't even get a loaf of bread for it.
That's
because
mad.
it's just things they print too much money, or just the worth of money, or people agree money is worth. Because money is invented as a promissory note, so it was made for people who had gold but didn't want to bring their gold everywhere they went. So people would say they leave it in a bank. The bank will give you this note, like basically an IOU for your gold, and that's what banknotes are.
That's mad.
And now we've moved on to.
Because I remember in Zimbabwe, like to get like you go and do your shopping, it'd be 14.5 trillion, 557. You know what I mean?
But it's the same in Bali, right? When I went to Bali a while ago, like it's to buy like a drink is 100 grand, but then the coins that you get are made out of plastic because it's not even worth putting the nick or whatever the things are made out of. So, yeah.
But no, so the internet it's a weird one, right? Because right, you have this side of it now on the dark web. So as I was saying, right, you can buy guns, you can do all that. But there was one very famous story of this lad, and he was a crime journalist, and he hired a hitman on the dark web somewhere to kill him.
To kill who?
To kill him. So
Hired him to kill him?
Yeah. So he said so he was talking to this lad who claimed to be a hitman and everything, right?
Was he trying to commit suicide, or was he doing it for a story?
Doing it for a story.
All right.
So he was saying, you know, he was chatting to your man, and your man said, yeah, he says, half now and half on completion. But what you do is you leave the money, so you pay him half now, then you leave the rest of it in escrow. So, right, because when I kill you, you're not going to be able to pay me. So you leave the money in
I'll
escrow.
leave it in my Bitcoin wallet.
So, so your man was like, yeah, 100%, yeah, no bother. So he was talking about, he was live kind of blogging and vlogging this story as it was going on. And then his posts, he was quite famous, this lad, and his posts started to get really sketchy and really cryptic. He's like, okay, I'm trying to call this off. I think I'm being followed. I'm in some cafe. So like put it down like where he was and everything. He's like, if you don't hear from me, blah, 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 this and this and this. And all the posts have stopped, and he's never posted since.
But is he?
They've never found him.
He's gone.
They've never found him.
He's missing, like.
Completely gone.
Was it an American fella?
Don't know. I must find out his name.
Well, that's another. We have to get him as well, his name for next time, folks. But that sounds mad. Because you'd think now, if you were a hitman off the dark web, you know, which I've heard, like Real Detective, when you hear them talking, they said there's no such thing as hitmen. There's like people who do murders for people in gangs, of course, but there's no one that you can just ring up as a stranger and get them to kill. That's what they say now. I'm not sure that they know.
So you're telling
either.
me there's nobody like Bruce Willis in The Jackal? Like,
That's what they're saying. That's what they say. A lot of the detectives. But anyway,
I'd be really disappointed.
because
I love
all
to
the
think,
illusions shattered.
I love to think there's some fella out there just like tips about drinking lovely little cocktails, talking to unbelievable looking women, and then just going in, taking the head of some lad, taking his wig off, and back on a flight somewhere else. Like just
Don't kill our dream.
you know, no, don't kill our dream. You know, some
It's like
lad
finding
just
out Santa Claus isn't real.
some lad sitting in a hotel bar with a martini and a wee olive in it, and some bird just comes up. What do you do? Oh, I'm in finance. One of them lads. And then the next thing tomorrow, he's in Sierra Leone doing an arms deal. For
I'm the kind of
$2.5
person who
million.
can get things done.
Tomorrow he's in Sierra Leone going, I'll take 5 bazookas, 15 AK-47s.
Lord of War.
Lord of
Great.
and have them all sent to Sydney.
But anyway, if one of these lads did exist, and we hope they do,
Please get in touch. We'd love to. We'd love to.
Yeah,
have
we'd
you
love to
on
get a
the
hitman.
podcast.
If Bret Hart falls through, we'll get another hitman. No bother. But that you'd think that they would do some research on who they're supposed to kill, and if they're seeing that this lad's putting up like messages, and
Yeah.
you have to think that any hitman worth his salt would be like, I'm not touching that with a fucking 10-foot barge pole. Fuck that shit.
Unless he's class.
Unless he's like Bruce
Unless
Willis.
he's class.
Yeah. He's the Zodiac killer. One of
Unless
these
he's,
cunts.
unless he's class, he's like, you do what you want.
Hitman goals, as we call that.
Hitman
That's going to be the
goals.
name of this episode. Hashtag Hitman goals.
But so you man, you can hire a hitman. Then there's the red rooms, which we found out about recently, where they're very hard to get into. Apparently, you need like loads of different like coordinates and passwords and different things, and then you get in and it's like it's mad stuff. Like this stuff would just make you question humanity. It's like live torture and like you can like so like you go in and there's people who've been kidnapped and there's somebody there just torturing them, and if you pay enough money in the chat or in the chat box,
Yeah.
you can tell them to like cut their ear off or like, you know, as you were saying.
Yeah.
What was it you were saying?
I've only if I ever give him a slap in the arse there.
No, but just, you know, you're sitting there, you're after you've just been kidnapped, you've gone through an awful ordeal, and you just come round, you're tied up in a chair, there's a webcam there, and you know there's some 57-year-old man eating a Domino's somewhere, and your life is in his hands, depending on how he's feeling. Like,
And he's had a bad day.
and he's
folks.
had a bad day.
That wife would just not stop nagging him.
His bunions are at him.
And you're going to lose an eyeball for it. Oh, good Lord. It's great.
Somebody took his parking space, and now he's going to take your fingers.
Someone keyed his car, now he's going to key your face.
Oh, it's mad.
It's madness on the dark web. I know people who used to get drugs delivered off it.
Yeah.
Quite successfully for a while, but then because it's done through crypto, I don't think that they can arrest you if it's sent to an address. Well,
Oh no, they
yeah.
can now. No, it's so.
Well, what I'll tell you is the people that I know that have done it before eventually got like a letter from customs in the post with a stamp and all saying that their parcel was seized.
Yeah.
And if they hear any more, like blah blah blah. But you'd wonder, was that actually customs, or could someone have just taken the money
Well,
and
I'll
sent
tell-
a customs letter?
well, I'll tell you now.
Because you could buy customs letters on the dark web
Oh,
for sure.
100%. So no, I'll tell you, and yeah, I'm sure we can say this, but in Ireland now the Gardaí have DHL on post uniforms.
Oh, do they?
Yeah, that's how. Yeah, there's a friend of ours, and they'll rock up to the door in a DHL, and the boys will be waiting around the side, and as soon as you open the door, as soon as you get that parcel, you're.
Yeah.
Yeah,
As soon
yeah.
as they go parcel for you and you sign for it, then you're taken out.
But I'll tell you how good it is, right? So one of the lads that I don't know. This is a long time ago now. This is pre-COVID. This is like 2018, 2019. And they were trying it out. And did I ever tell you the story about the iPad?
I think you might have said something.
So these lads put a bit of money together and they were buying things that they shouldn't have been buying at the time. This is an over 18s podcast, by the way.
Yeah,
just
by the way.
so the lads were buying cocaine on the dark web, and it didn't arrive. And this was around November, I remember, because they were saying that they were going to try and do this for like Christmas or whatever, and I was like, all right, to have a white Christmas.
Have a white Christmas.
But
Dreaming.
this is what they were saying anyway. But what happened was nothing happened, and about a week before Christmas, a brand new iPad Touch landed in the post,
Right.
fresh from Apple, vacuum packed, holograms on the boxes, 100%.
Yeah.
And he was like, "Oh my God, what's this? I didn't order this. This is deadly." He opened it
Not
up.
as Christmases came at once.
Oh, it's Christmas. He opened it up and it was perfect dimensions, flat in the iPad box.
Yeah.
Was the cocaine perfectly laid out in the exact dimensions of an iPad Pro in the box? That's how sophisticated.
That's
they
next
are now.
level shit, yeah.
They
must be putting they must have realised that the amount, like they have a mould or something that you put the cocaine into, and that weighs a certain amount maybe.
probably
It must be like, yeah.
yeah, it's just the exact same as
Very
an iPad
clever.
Pro.
That's there's like for whatever way people come to try and criminalize anything, there'll always be someone with a better way to fucking get it through.
But if you think about it, right, if criminals, especially smugglers, if they put their mind to like something normal, just something legal,
Yeah.
they'd probably be CEOs and all. Myself and my brother went to a really good talk with Howard Marks,
Oh, yeah.
with Mr. Nice.
Yeah, yeah.
He did a talk in Cavan about, must be about 10 years ago or more.
Right.
And he was talking about how they used to smuggle all his drugs. He was a very famous drug smuggler back in the 70s and 80s. And he used to smuggle all his drugs in The Who, in the rock band, in their amplifiers.
Oh yeah.
So wherever they'd be going, he'd fill their amplifiers full of drugs. Nobody'd ever search the band. And whenever they'd land, one of his boys that knew them would go and get all the drugs off them wherever they were flying all over the world. And then they'd take whatever drugs they wanted out of it for themselves.
Yeah.
And then the rest, he'd just bring to wherever it was supposed to go.
Quid pro quo, he called that.
Yeah,
I would say.
the boys. Although I'd say I wouldn't trust a rock band like The Who with my drugs flying all over the world.
What happens when fucking one of them picks up the amp and throws it out a hotel window? And you'd be like, fuck's sake. Then it'll be a white Christmas in Moscow this year.
There was 5 kilos in that amp.
Yeah, shit one. Oh, he's an interesting dude. He was a lot in the 90s. He was like a cult figure. Remember he was in Human Traffic.
Oh, in the film, yeah.
I only watched Human Traffic recently with my own teenage kids, and
That was a great film.
they could relate.
It's coming back. Have you seen Dublin Old School? It's very good as well.
No, I haven't seen
It's an Irish human traffic kind of vibe. But isn't it going like that now that like people aren't really hitting the pubs as much now? The rave thing is coming back a little bit.
there's more underground raves, but I'm finding I think that the whole culture is sessioning and stuff is, I mean, obviously it still happens, and definitely with older generations, but with the younger generations, they're drinking less, I think, in general, and partying less. I mean, there's still people that do it, and I just think as a whole, it's becoming less. And that's from my perspective. Even like seeing stuff like my son, who does enjoy an old session, he started going camping with his mates and all now. And I'm sure that they're not sitting there fucking singing Kumbaya. I'm sure they're up to drinking and whatever else, but at least they're not just sitting in the kitchen. They're getting out and doing a bit of nature. I think, get ready to drink, folks.
It's the collapse.
It's the duality collapsing, folks. You know it.
Drink.
Yeah, we're all becoming more peaceful in ourselves. We're not going to need all these helpers or hinderers, whatever you want to call these substances, which I believe they can be both, depending on the person that's taking them and why they're taking them. But yeah, so that's what I think. But there'll always be party people, but definitely people are drinking less. We play in pubs, and we've noticed a marked difference since the pandemic.
Oh, without a doubt.
Haven't we? It started coming back a little bit now.
Without a doubt.
It started coming back a little bit. Definitely around the city centre and all now. But
Well, do you know what I've noticed, especially with Irish people since the pandemic? We don't let go as quick as we used to. So, like, I know we spoke about the Celtic Tiger last week, and we came out of that where it was just mayhem. Like, we were going out to get fucking hammered, right?
On the bubble.
You know what I mean? And we were going for it, like, and then we went through, like, just it was that phase. We were going out, we were drinking, and everybody was just. But now I find we're a lot more reserved early on.
right.
I think Irish people are a lot more reserved. Even now, like 7, 8, 9 o'clock, I find everybody's a lot more reserved. 10, 11, and then we start to let go, I think, after that. Whereas before, you would have had like great crack in a pub from 8 o'clock. You don't really have that
I
anymore.
have a theory now for you.
Right, tell me.
I'd say 90% of the pubs now do food till 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
And people go and they have food. Whereas before, like, pubs were not for food. You could have like a pick of plenty in the middle of watching football or something. But people didn't go to have their own food in a pub. But now, and that was brought in during the pandemic. Remember, you had to buy tenner worth of food.
Yeah, a substantial meal,
Yeah.
€9.
Yeah. And you have to, and so people have kind of got used to going out, having their dinner with a few pints, and then slowly. A lot of people go home after that. Maybe that's another reason why that happens as well, because people have had their food. They want to go home and have their last few drinks at home, or they want to go to a party or a nightclub.
There was a pub near us during the pandemic that just had about, I'd say, a stack of about maybe 30 pizza boxes.
Yeah.
And you just went in and bought a couple of drinks and they just throw a pizza box.
Yeah, there was loads of pubs.
There was no pizza, like
Yeah.
not even a pizza oven, and they just launch out a load of pizza boxes.
Yeah.
If anybody comes in, we got them from next.
Yeah, there was a lot of pubs did that. But it's funny because, in a way, it worked, even to curb like the binge and drinking in Ireland in pubs. Anyway, because it did like very seldom now you go to a pub that doesn't do food, where it used to be like very seldom a pub would do food. They do carvery or they might do like a toasted sandwich or something. But now they all do food. It was a big change.
Yeah.
In Ireland, anyway, I don't know how else it worked. I think everywhere else in Europe always did food anyway in the pubs. Like if you go to Spain, you buy a beer, they leave you out some tapas everywhere.
Yeah.
And it's cheaper, still cheaper. so, so what are we doing wrong?
I'll tell you what we do. Like I know we don't have our own cuisine.
Yeah.
But I think we do food very well. Like I think the quality of our food, and I think that's isn't that what they said about Brexit? So when the UK left Europe, they had to adhere to like a European standard of food. And then with Brexit, they only have to adhere to like the same standards as like the Americans, I think, at the minute. Apparently that's not as high as like
substandard. Yeah, Ireland, they have the Irish quality control on everything and all this. And yeah, I think the quality of Irish food is good, but I think like you said, Irish cuisine is pretty. I was in Germany recently, like, and they asked me what food do you think is better, German or Irish food, and I was like, they're both pretty shit, to be honest with you. Like, I think everywhere else would look at it, like what's traditional. Although you can get like really nice, fancy like
coddle.
Yeah, you could get a fancy coddle.
Oh,
there's loads of stuff now with black pudding in it that's lovely.
I've never eaten coddle in my life, and I never intend to.
I've had it a couple of times.
A sausage and a load of soup, I couldn't do it.
The way we make things traditionally is very bland, like boiled fucking meat and all, and that's not for me, obviously, and I think it's not for most people nowadays.
Bacon and cabbage, all right.
I'm not a big ham fan at all, to be honest with you. I don't like a big chunk of ham. I don't mind a bit of ham in a sandwich, like a thin slice, but when it comes to like having a chicken or a turkey and a ham, I wouldn't have much ham. I'd have maybe a little bit. Most people love it. Most people, it's their favourite thing, but not me. If it's done low and slow for a long time and it's like falling apart, then it's much nicer. I was in Johnny Fox's shit with Johnny Fox's. Might be the nicest pub grub I had. What did I have up there? It was like a...
Did you have the Guinness pie?
No, it wasn't Guinness pie. I've had that before up there. It was lovely.
Stops.
Also, the mussels up there are lovely. They come in white wine cream. But no, what I had was a beef brisket.
Okay.
And I got it one day, and every time I order something like that in a pub, I'm always disappointed because it comes out like a carvery thing, and I'm expecting I'm going to have to chew it for half the day.
Yeah.
I touched this thing with a knife, and it just went... Vroom.
Oh, wow.
It fell apart. It was unbelievable. It was probably the nicest pub food I've had that I can remember anyway.
Myself and one of the lads during COVID, we got this idea, mad idea. We were going to buy a brisket oven.
Right.
And we were going to get it in the back of a trailer. You remember during COVID, everybody had this, like, music had stopped. There was no, like, I had no money coming in during COVID. Music had stopped. I was on, like, the pandemic thing, whatever
Pandemic
it was.
Payment.
And and everybody started putting coffee trucks on the road. Everybody.
Coffee trucks everywhere.
Coffee trucks as far as the eye could see. I mean,
During the Celtic Tiger, you couldn't walk for pepper sauce, and during the COVID pandemic, you couldn't walk without a coffee truck.
So we were like, listen, we looked up this thing, and there was this lad who made these unbelievable briskets. We were like, look, we should get a brisket oven, like a proper portable one, like a big one.
Yeah.
And we looked up these briskets and all, and we were like, yeah, and we were 100% nearly on the road, and I was like, can you cook? And he was like, no. He was like, have you ever made a brisket? I was like, man, I've never even seen a brisket in real life. So we curbed that idea. But it would be deadly.
I don't think it would be that hard if you have the oven to do it. Like, it's just a matter of, you can probably find a YouTube video how to do it.
Oh no, we were watching YouTube videos every day.
Oh yeah.
Like, so we were addicted to Call of Duty at the time. This was the problem. So it was either Call of Duty or I'd Call of Duty and briskets coming out my ears during the pandemic. So what was your thing during the pandemic? What was your coping mechanism? Like, I gave up drinking completely, and in a way I'm glad, and in a way, I know I'm glad, but at the same time, there was a lot of kind of introspective thought. I went very inward with it because I lived about 5 or 6 years of debauchery, for want of a better word.
Yeah.
And I suppose COVID, just everything went quiet, and then I start looking, and I was like, oh, and a lot of the decisions I made over that 5 or 6 years, everything came back, and it was like, whoa, this all happened, and then I was like, Jesus, was this the time to give up drinking? Just in the middle of all this, I was like, is this the time to give? So how did you do it? What did you?
Well, I will say, but my thoughts on what you were saying there is that I think we said before. I think it was a mass event that gave everyone the opportunity to look inside, and we talked about last week how fasting from anything is gives you an opportunity, and even though you might not have liked what you saw, it kind of still helps you in the long run. Probably at the time it was dark and tough to go through, but in the long run, it's helped you. Me during the COVID, I was already in lockdown before. I went into lockdown. I had this spiritual awakening maybe 6 or 8 months before COVID.
Right.
So I was already in lockdown. I wasn't going out seeing anyone. I was going for walks. I was hiking up the mountain every day, or I was running 10, 20, 30 kilometers, coming home or going to the gym. Then I'd come home. I'd have 2 bottles of wine, a few joints. I'd watch some movie and have all these mad spiritual connection things. I'd wake up in the morning with no hangover. And I'd do the same thing again. And it was like a...
Right, no, rewind there. So you'd run 20 or 30 kilometres and then come home and drink 2 bottles of wine and smoke joints.
Yeah.
Man, that's madness. Like.
Yeah, I know. And I used to have really bad hangovers. And then after I had this spiritual... I don't think drinking's not good. I wouldn't do that now. But at the time, it helped me because I told you all the problems I had with retention. And I found that after doing a lot of working out or working my body a lot, that drinking the wine lets me relax my body. So it was a tool for me. So as we say...
But man, 2 bottles of wine is some going.
Sometimes 3.
But no, not by yourself.
Yeah, by myself.
You would not drink 3 bottles of wine
Yeah, I did.
Yourself.
A few times I drank 3. Now, them times I'd black out, but I'd still wake up in the morning and go running. Yeah. But as I say, these things can be a tool or a crutch.
Man, 3 bottles of wine is some going to yourself. Like.
Yeah, it is. But to me, it helped me at the time.
That's like
I wouldn't do it now.
That's like a party of Michael Barrymore's gaff. Like.
No one go near the pool or the pool table. Yeah, but that's what I was doing during the pandemic for most of it. And I was in the sea every day as well, swimming in the sea all through the winter. Down in Shankill Beach, none of this like going to the Vico with the lads. Or I went down to Shankill Beach. I'd be the only one on the beach, sleets blowing sideways, me walking barefoot on the stones, going down, jumping into the sea, seals flying around me, rocks everywhere. But it was beautiful, and so it didn't affect me at all, the pandemic, because I knew I'd already had this connection to the oneness and the perfection of everything. So to me, it just didn't. It felt like it was just something that was supposed to happen for people to wake up. Some people woke up from it. Some people got more into the depths of why it happened. And it's all a process of waking us up, I think.
Well, there's a mad mpox virus in Africa at the minute.
Yeah, monkeypox.
I don't know. It's one of the poxes. I don't know.
It's one of those poxy. It's one of those poxy poxes.
It's poxy. No. So it's one of the poxes. But I just heard about it last night, and they don't have enough vaccines for it.
Right.
So apparently they think it could be another. Not on the scale of not bodies in the street like at the beginning of COVID.
Well, that didn't happen either. That's whatever things happen. Like people, of course, there's going to be a lot of fear, and of course, people are going to try and profit from it as well. So that's what I see. Like when I see people arguing about vaccines, I can see both of their, like everything else, I can see both of their points why they think that. And to me, I allow people to think what they want. I still respect and have compassion for them no matter what they think, even if I don't agree personally or I do. So we'll see. But yeah, another pandemic. I think that's, in a way, a pandemic was it could have been worse. It could have been another world war or something, I believe that as we go through these, like as the dualities collapse, the two oceans come together, there's waves made, there's going to be some distortion, there's a new part of consciousness being born, so there's going to be some pain, some suffering, and by how we react to it, we either make it more painful or less painful. And we do that individually and as a people. So I just feel that we kind of got through COVID all right. People say, oh, it was a shit show. People, COVID this, having vaccines that. But people weren't killing each other in the street over it. They were just arguing online about it and saying, you're a sheep, you're an anti-vaxxer.
It is actually...
But people would have those people, but they'd still be their friends. It's like having a Liverpool fan
and a Man United
you'd hate them, but you're still your best friend. Like.
But then do you think that it has given people... I find we have more of an online persona presence now, in that people think online's just as real as real life.
I think people think that while they're online, but I think they soon forget that when they're offline.
Like,
That's what I think.
like when I go online and I read some of the things people are writing to each other, I'm like this whole, right, this divide we have at the minute. Ireland is full divide, right? And the Mary Wallopers came out last week, and they're after having a big fight on the other side, calling people racists and fascists, and it's mad. And then we have Tommy Robinson from England coming over, and he's leading, like, you know, it's in a way, I'm not going to give my opinion on any of this, because, to be honest, I don't know enough about it. But I do know that there is no need as a people for us to be in the situation we're in at the minute with one another.
Yeah, I agree. But
you know,
but we can only have our own perspective, and people have to have theirs. And I like coming out and calling all people racists and fascists or whatever is your choice to do, and I respect you if you want to do that. I don't think it helps the situation. I think it's inflammatory, as the same as calling people sheep. Or what you're doing there is just you're choosing fear over love. If you think someone is hateful, a racist, and you decide to hate them, you're just adding fear to fear. You're not helping the situation. You're choosing fear. And what we're here to do is choose fear or love. And there's no right or wrong answer for it. It's a choice that we all have to make. And it's a choice we make every moment of every day. I actually started doing a thing on Threads, on Instagram Threads.
Yeah.
I don't use it for anything else. So I just
So I've noticed it. Yeah. I only noticed it the other day.
Yeah. So I just put up, what are you choosing today, love or fear?
Love or fear. Yeah.
And I just leave that go every day. And if some days I forget to do it, but
I was going to act the bollocks and just keep picking fear. Every
some
day.
some people do pick fear, which is fair enough. Like everyone.
I was just going to do it every day just to see if you'd notice.
Yeah. But you can't see who voted or anything like that.
Oh, can you not?
No, it's completely anonymous.
So I was voting on it, and I was going to keep picking fear just so he'd be like, what the fuck is he doing this for?
Yeah. Well, you're free to pick fear as well. That's what we're here for to do, Phil. But
so is fear or love? Are they the only choices we have when we wake up?
Well,
I suppose
in the moment. That's your choice. I think the choices here are to choose between positive and negative, or service to self or service to others. And that's not like really in your actions or your thoughts, it's your intention. So your intention is deeper than any action you can do. So even if like you don't think that what you're doing is a loving thing, if you were trying to be loving, then that's choosing love over fear.
Well,
and if you're hating someone, so if you disagree with something and you're out hating what you perceive as hate, that's choosing fear, I believe. Other people are free to have their own opinions, of course.
Well, I'm currently living just when you were saying there about self-serving or serving to others, I'm living in the middle of the Wicklow Mountains. I was just coming down there now, and there was a group of walkers, and one of them was a bit tired, so he asked me for a lift down further. He was a Belgian man, lovely. But in the middle of it, he told me he copped a guitar in the back of the car, and he said he was a musician. He said he's a lawyer, but he said he was an opera singer.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. And then he just hooked into opera singing.
What was he singing?
So it was like we were literally.
Was it Italian or Belgian?
No, it was Italian.
Yeah.
We were driving the road, and it was like, oh, Virgin Maria, and I was like, all right, yes, class. Just out of nowhere. It's a good man, but he was brilliant.
Yeah.
To be fair, he was brilliant.
Yeah. Well, that's a what you call it. That's a service to others act, but you can see how intention. I'll give you an example of how intention could be involved there. If you were like to give him a lift and then but you're only doing it because you want money from him, or you want to make a video to show that you do this, you could say that is not service to others' intention. But the act could still be done.
To be fair, I never would have told you the story if he hadn't a sign.
No, I know. I'm not. But that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Your intention is not something that really you do consciously.
It's an
unconscious
one of those
act.
things. I think you should never let your right hand see what your left hand sees.
Perfect fucking analogy. One of my favourites. Don't do things because you're trying to get something out of it. Try. You will sometimes obviously do that.
These lads online go over and give homeless people money and all, and they have like a They have, like some lads are doing really well, and they go over and they're like, you know what, here's $1,000.
Yeah.
And people start crying and all, and then they start giving them hugs and all. I'm like, you're a scumbag.
Well, I would say that's better than not doing anything, but also what's their intention. That's only their own personal thing. But for
Their
the person,
intention is to stick it on YouTube and make 11 grand then
yeah,
back from
I know,
the views.
I know,
like.
true. Well, we don't know for sure that's what their intention
Although,
is.
to be fair, Mr. Beast is deadly.
Yeah.
Like, Mr. Beast is going out and every penny he gets, he's putting it back into, like...
Yeah.
Now, listen, he does make a show.
But and again, we can only kind of see our own intention. We can project intention onto other people, what we think their intention is or what we assume, but we can't actually know. That's the beauty of this whole being separate entities. We can only see our own point of view. We're the same awareness, just with a slightly different point of view.
So then, right.
Blind people feeling an elephant, Philip. You know that analogy? 5 blind men touching an elephant, and they all have to explain what it is they're touching, and they all think it's a completely different thing because one has a trunk, one has a leg, one has a tail. You could say it's a tiny little snake, or you could say it's a fucking huge tree trunk, depending on your perspective.
Wouldn't it be like it's Ron Jeremy?
I said that to my dad. I said that to my dad recently, and he goes, "I hope I'm not touching his willy."
It's Ron Jeremy.
Yeah.
Ron Jeremy he did a talk in actually, you know what, the dark web. Ron Jeremy. So Ron Jeremy is, I'd say, is he the most famous porn star of all time? Probably.
Well, he was the only male porn star that I ever heard of. Actually, probably the only male porn star I could name now.
No, there was a guy that died of AIDS, John Holmes. So
I think I might have heard of him, but I definitely wouldn't. He wouldn't be in the
famous.
lexicon like Ron Jeremy.
So he would have been the OG in that. Like John Holmes would have been famous back in the. Remember when they had theaters?
Yeah,
And
wanking
and
theaters.
like it was
Trenchcoat Mafia.
Trenchcoat Mafia. But so John Holmes was big, and then Ron Jeremy into the 90s and 90s, and now probably the most famous porn star in the world is an anti-porn star. So you have Mia Khalifa. She's a famous porn star who doesn't want to be a famous porn star. So she's sued the companies to take down all her videos and all this kind of stuff. Yet she's probably still the most prominent face.
Yeah.
In the pornography industry, I'd say.
Yeah, I've heard that stuff about her. All right, yeah. I think it's funny because it's a case of it's another example of how we are all constantly in change. So what you believe is good for you or for your best interest at one point, like looking back at your Facebook post now from 10 years ago, it's a different person. She obviously did these porn videos in one state and now she sees life differently.
Well, you see, I suppose one of her most famous ones though was she wore a hijab.
Yeah.
And I think that was one of the and she's Lebanese, so I think there was a big, massive
uproar
in the Middle East, and that was the first time that like those things had kind of clashed like that.
Yeah. You could see how that would be a kink because people like things that are taboo like that.
Of course,
you know. So that's
without a doubt.
It's like for any content that has a bit of a rough edge. You know, people love that.
You see, I suppose right, we were kind of lucky in that we were the last generation of the dial-up internet. Like now, right? It's very funny because and I really feel for them. I feel for young ones now because young men and young girls have such a skewed version of what sex is because hardcore pornography is so easily accessible for a 14 or 15-year-old male that how is he gonna not know that's not and this is the thing. It's because I spoke to someone who went through a counselling course and now for like SPHE and sexual education teachers, this is what they're being taught now. It's that like I think pornography addiction in like 17 to 19-year-old males has gone up like skyrocketed, and they're gonna believe that that's what sex is at that part of their life.
Yeah, that's definitely a possibility. I would say it's a case of the pendulum swinging because we were such a sexually repressed nation for so long. Like if you look somewhere like Germany, pornography is like on daytime TV.
You were saying that, like so.
Is that like pornography and sex is not like a taboo subject in Germany, or never has been, as far as I know. So they've kind of. I don't see them or have a problem with these things, but we were like the Catholic Church repressed sexually. You don't talk about these things. There was no sex education when I was in school, for sure.
We had it.
You were a bit older than me. I think it came in after my time. I don't think I ever did sex education. I remember my man and dad buying a book for me when I was 10 or 12, but we never had it. So I would see it as the pendulum swinging. So kids, yeah, there's a danger of thinking that that's how you like sex is all about not a loving act of sharing a sexual energy, but like spitting in my face and all this shit.
Yeah, yeah.
But people will always gravitate to what resonates with them anyway. Even if young lads maybe get this kind of negative attitude to it, I think maybe in the long run, once you have a loving relationship with someone, I think it.
I don't think we can speak on this properly yet because like I remember having dial-up, and I remember the first time one of the lads from school sent me a dirty picture.
I was like,
on an email, yeah. And
come on.
It was
don't have a dick, 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 don't have a dick. Yeah.
It was downloading in like sections, and it took ages.
Yeah.
And like, you know, we were like the last of that.
Yeah.
Because after that, everything started moving on to phones. Like everything started, like then images start coming onto phones.
Yeah.
Like back we had like, you know, whatever. But this is it now, and something has happened. We're going to do a full podcast on it, but we are trying to find, please, out there, if you are listening,
Yeah.
if you're listening to us, if you are an incel, please contact us anonymously. We will do it so professionally and so well, and we will do it so carefully, and we want to do it properly because we want you and your community to feel heard. So there's a new, well, it's not new. There is a community of men online, incels. We don't want to go too deep in it because we want to do a full podcast on it, and we would love to have an incel on. So if you're listening, please let us know if that's, even contact us anonymously. If it's not something you're into, just contact us anonymously and send us an email on where we can go to find out more properly, so we can talk about it from a very balanced point of view, because it's very easy with the way the internet has spun this now to make it look like, you know, that incels are hermit people who live in rooms and you know, like we want to know. We want to know
it's something that's generalized, which is never true. Whenever some section of society, whether it be race, sexual proclivity, any group, whenever someone is generalized like that, there's always obviously been some agendas at play.
There's a very good comedian, Justine Stafford, and there was a play they did in the Abbey Theatre. It was called The Last Incel, and they've actually brought it to the Fringe. They're in Edinburgh at the moment with it. But it's supposed to be absolutely brilliant. Now, I haven't got seen it, so I'm hoping to do another run when I come back to Dublin. Mm-hmm. And I'm hoping to get seen it there because I watched a documentary on incels. And it's basically men who feel that they'll never get a woman. And they have like
involuntary celibacy. That's what it's
involuntary celibacy. Yeah. And they have like they have different terms for different men that they see, and they
chads,
and so alphas and betas, and.
But again, that's probably only a certain section. There's probably incels that don't like judge other people like this as well.
Exactly.
People are just find themselves. What we get given as what they do, again, that's a generalization.
So we're probably only given the most extreme version of what an incel is, just to.
You only hear about the ones who end up being a school shooter.
Exactly. Just to paint them as and. Actually, there was one or two. Isn't that what it was? Isn't that where it came from?
Of course, there's been one or two. Yeah, people get angry for all sorts of reasons, but people's reasons for these are.
Because I watched a video of a guy. He did it. Remember, he did a shooting, and he was in the video, and he was in the car.
Yeah, I watched it. Yeah.
And he went on a big rant for about 20 minutes before he did whatever.
People will give all sorts of excuses for why they do things, and all. I would say that the biggest driver of school shootings isn't gun laws or guns. It's reporting it and becoming it such a big thing, because, as I say, what we interact with is what we get. So when it becomes like a huge thing happening all the time, and people are following these stories, and then they're putting all this energy about hating gun laws, hating this, hating that, I believe that it puts the energy out. News outlets have stopped naming the shooters. They've stopped making it such a glorified, if you say, was not the right word, but.
Well, we definitely glorified Dylan Klebold and Eric Harris.
Yeah, that was because that was was one of the first ones. Although another interesting thing, I used to live next door to a family, and they had cousins in America. Now this was in the 80s or 90s, and that was one of the first school shootings in America. They had a cousin that was in a school that was shot up
No way.
by a student who was, I think he was 12. He told me. Can't remember the story very well. I was very young.
But didn't that Bob Geldof and the Boontown Rats? They wrote "Tell Me Why I Don't Like Mondays" about a school shooting.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
I thought
It's
it was
like I'm going to shoot the whole day down.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. The silicon chip inside her head
Yeah.
is switched to overload, and nobody's going to go to school today. She's going to make them stay
I
at
fucking
home.
didn't even know that.
Yeah. Oh no! Like when you listen to it back, it's some song.
Yeah.
Daddy never understood it.
But I never
He
knew
always said
that's
she
what it was
good as
about.
gold. Yeah.
I thought it was just about not liking Mondays.
So the incel thing does lead us back to the dark web, because this is out there, folks, and it's a real eye opener. Like to be honest with you, I'd be better off if I didn't know as much as I do about it, because I went down a mad rabbit hole with the whole lot. Like when this all, I was like, you can get machine guns online. I want to see this.
Philip's brain is just full of rabbit holes, folks.
Just
It's up and down.
I was like Jesus, like I'm always fascinated by the things that you're not supposed to be fascinated by, and it was, the more I found out about it, the less I suppose you want to know about it. It's funny just on the whole gun thing. I used to live beside a guy, and he was in the British Army.
Yeah.
And I was always like, RoboCop's my favourite film. I've always been fascinated by guns and violence and everything as a kid. And he did a tour of Iraq.
Yeah.
And he told me that he flew into Kandahar, and when they fly into Kandahar, it's like 70,000 people are on this base. It's got like a Starbucks and a McDonald's on the base and all, right?
Yeah.
So he said they flew into this base and it's got like a Kandahar and a Starbucks and everything, and or a McDonald's, Starbucks, the whole lot in Kandahar, and they're in there, and he said it's just class. He said like they've got like a 24/7 fitness, like a gym chain in there, right?
Shooting range.
And and the shooting range is outside. I'll tell you about that now in a minute.
With javelin missiles.
They're brought out to the shooting range. I'll tell you about that now in a minute.
Moving targets, is it?
But moving targets. But he was saying anyway, so one night we got sitting down in the house, and it was funny because Glastonbury was on the telly, and he came in, and I was after he used to live across the road from me, and I'd chatting to him every now and again, and one night I was watching Glastonbury, and I had a few Coronas, and he came in, we were chatting, and obviously with a few bottles and inquisitive, I was like, tell me the crack, did you ever kill anyone? So he told me his story. He said that they moved out of Kandahar, they were in this base in the middle of nowhere. And he said that there was a team who were out on like a
scouting mission.
Like they were doing something, this team that were out, and basically they were attacked. Their convoy came under attack, and all of them were killed except two of them, two soldiers, and the medic.
The British soldiers?
The American and British.
Oh, yeah.
And the medic that was with them. Right? So there's two soldiers came back. They were injured. They were seeing the doctor. They were in this base. And the medic was okay. So he was back. So the medic, they just wanted to get him out of there because he's after seeing everybody die around him. He's had massive, massive emotional trauma. He's in an awful state. They wanted to get him out of there. He's in the base with this guy, with the medic, and the base that they're in comes under attack from the same people that are after attacking the convoy. So they followed it back and attacked the base. So he said he's in this tower, and the medic's beside him, and they're on the floor, and there's just bullets bouncing off it, like off this tower. So he's waiting on people to bring up the ammunition for this big gun that sits up on top of this. It sits up on top of the tower. One of the ones you hold with two hands.
Yeah.
Right? So he's waiting on top of that. And I was like, right. And he said, like, what happens is his mate comes up with the bullets, and they pull up this metal screen that goes up, and the gun sits through the metal screen.
Yeah.
Right? So he has these goggles that he's able to look through the metal screen, and the gun's like that. And his friend is loading it with bullets, and all he's doing is he's just pointing the gun. So I said, right? So tell me. So he said...
He pulls the trigger and he just points it? Like,
no. He said he's holding it, and he said, I don't know what it feels like to kill someone. He said, because I was so far away from this.
Yeah.
He said, but I was pointing that gun, and whoever I pointed it at fell.
Yeah.
So he said,
it's almost like a game.
So he said it felt so surreal. He said it's a big and it's bouncing like. Yeah. He said this gun is heavy, it's huge, and it's on this kind of big tripod, but it's bouncing. It's got like hydraulics and all. Like and it moves around, and he said whoever he pointed that at fell. Yeah, he said so, and I was like, Obviously, enough. I'm full of drink at this age. I'm like 6 or 7 bottles in. I didn't like. I would have handled this with a bit more, I suppose,
Tact.
a bit more tact.
Yeah.
If I had been sober, I would have let him talk,
Yeah.
but I couldn't.
You were
I was too excited. I was like, just did you kill 5 of them? Did you kill? And he's like, more than 10, I'd say.
Yeah.
And I was like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah. It's crazy, isn't it? Yeah. That's what
That's
war.
not my story to tell, but I don't think he listens to the podcast, and nobody. Well,
Yeah, nobody's gonna know who he
yeah,
is.
yeah.
Sure.
Nobody knows who he is, but
But these are the things. These are the energies that get worked out, and all the people. Well, this is my belief, and people are free to believe their own. All the people he killed, and all the people that killed all his friends. Once they leave this life, they realize that they're the same thing, and it's just love again. It's a bit like a game in a way.
young broke men are dying to make old billionaires richer.
That's it, isn't it? Well, people are waking up to this as well. And my own thought is that we won't have as many of these large-scale conflicts. Of course, there'll be conflicts and there'll be sides and people choosing sides. But I believe that the more we focus on compassion doesn't mean agreeing or letting people do what they want. It just means that understanding that but for the grace of God go I. That understand that people have their own perspective. They find themselves through circumstance, through biology, through geography in these circumstances, and most of them are acting in a way we'd act if we were in their shoes. And just if we can keep that in mind, I think we are keeping the heart open and we're doing good for the world and for ourselves. We are.
So again, just to summarise, if there's anybody listening, if you are from the incel community, please get in touch with us, because it's something we're actually very interested in, and it's something we'd like to explore properly, as opposed to, as Jim said, what's been shown to us.
Incels is what we've talked about, but anyone that feels they're part of a group that
needs a voice,
or that feels like they're generalized in a demeaning way or an untrue way, send us a message anonymously. They're anonymous messages, because people only get their opinions by what they're fed. And unless you've done like a real deep dive, or people who are in the situation, the only real way is if you're in the situation yourself. But trying to find the more complexities to these simplified
It's funny
topics.
what you're being fed mostly is whoever has paid the most to promote that post.
Yeah.
Do you know? So you're being fed what
Well,
they want to feed you.
That's what you're fed by the news and stuff. But what you're fed on the algorithm is what you interact with, obviously.
Oh, don't tell me that. Don't tell
It's
me
true,
that.
Phil. It's true. You know it is. But that again, it's like news. People don't watch the news anymore. Like I certainly haven't watched the news in a long time. So again, that was what we were fed. So now people have woken up to the fact that what you hear in the news is not necessarily for your benefit or the truth. And now obviously people take that the wrong way and go completely the opposite way and turn into like where everything is untrue and everything is conspiracy. But that's just how the pendulum swings.
Well, it's funny just when you mentioned the news there. So about 4 days ago, there's this new synthetic opioid called nitazene,
Okay.
and the Taliban, how are you lads?
Back in charge.
The Taliban back in charge.
But loads of new fucking tanks now as well. Happy
did they,
days.
yeah?
Well,
Well, they're
the
after-
Americans left I don't know, $2 trillion worth of weapons there.
Well,
You
they're
know,
after- they're
as
after-
long as they're paying for as long as someone's paying for the weapons companies will keep making them. Huh?
So the Taliban have cut down on heroin, on the heroin production, on the poppy production in Afghanistan. Afghanistan controls 90% of the world's heroin. So apparently we're going to have a massive heroin shortage in the next 2 or 3 months in Europe. Like massive, like on a scale unprecedented that we've never seen before.
Opium or heroin in particular.
Heroin in particular.
right.
So everybody's starting to use this new synthetic drug called nitazene.
Right.
People are dropping left, right, and centre.
Fentanyl
because
job, is it?
It's supposed to be like it's similar to fentanyl, but it's like 20 times stronger than heroin.
Yeah.
And the other day in Midlands or Portlaoise prison, like 6 lads took it, and they're all in, like loads of them in intensive care, and like it's really bad.
It's like a head shop heroin.
A head shop heroin. It's funny.
You probably
the
get
way-
that in the dark web.
Oh, you definitely get it in the dark web. Yeah. You get it quicker than heroin, I'd say.
Yeah. The head shop thing. I'd like to do a podcast about the head shops back in the day.
Well, let's definitely do
Let's
it.
do a podcast about that. Anyone who's got head shop memories from back in the day. That was when the whole thing crashed after the Celtic Tiger. The head shops opened up, and there was a few years of the Wild West stuff there.
But you see, I think what happened there wasn't it like our drug laws weren't stringent enough in that you could change a couple of compounds of a normal drug and make it something else, even though it was the same drug with the same effect, but just had a different compound in it. Like so you could take ecstasy and you could like change the end of its chemical compound.
Yeah, something that's not a big deal to the actual effects. But yeah, there was loads. There was the bubble. I mean, who hasn't got bubble stories out there, folks? Fuck me. That was a huge thing for years. God, bath salts. I think, and if you're American or from somewhere else, I'm sure they call it something else in England. Probably not bubble. I think they call it
mephedrone.
Mephedrone, yeah. I think they call it something else in different parts of Ireland as well.
Not to be confused with
methadone.
Yeah. Or a metronome.
Be hard to keep time with that one. Well, folks, that's it for episode 13, unlucky for some, of the Temple Bard podcast with me, Jim Wynn, and Philip Noon. Sláinte.